How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Pete's Carport, and welcome to a fun video featuring my 95 Chevy G20 conversion van that is our dog hauler and family vacation van. We're going to spruce it up a little bit, something that has already been a part of this van but was kind of depleted and I thought was really cool. I wanted to take it a little bit further to the next level, modernize it a little bit. And now it did have these LED lights along here, but had very minimal. Also, almost all of them were red. I think it had maybe one or two up front that were the orange amber color. And I did a little research, realized it's supposed to be amber, I think, all the way across the front here, but we're gonna keep a couple of these reds towards the back. I've never been pulled over for it. I know you gotta be cautious, so don't technically follow what I'm doing because I believe all red have to be behind your second set of wheels here. Not 100% sure about that because it's very gray when you research it, but we're gonna go with two red back here and we're going to change all the rest to amber. Now, when I started doing this, I forgot that I had ordered mostly amber, and so these are the new ones here. I started setting this side up. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I did for the other side. I just wanted to test it out and see exactly what I had because it's been months since I ordered these lights in. Now, there are a lot cheaper lights online. I did spend a lot more on these than I probably should have, but I got them on Amazon. I ordered a set of two of them originally just to kind of see what they were like, and I was blown away with the quality of the light, the structure of the light compared to what was on there. I did not want to get another cheap set that's eventually going to leak. The screws rust on them, and I'll walk to the other side and kind of show you guys here. So the previous owner probably is the one who installed these, and you can see these are the ones that were on here. The casing's real cheap. I can probably pull this off pretty easily. The screws are all rusted out, and you can see this one's already come apart here, and it's a pretty inexpensive, cheap LED. Now, these are super cheap. The similar styles you can get on like eBay, I think Amazon, you can probably find them too, and they're really cheap. The ones that I ordered, a little bit more expensive. I want to say they were a couple bucks a piece. I'll put it on the screen now, and I'll link the ones I got, but the structure of these is way better. These are sealed way better. The color of the actual plastic is way nicer. It's going to last a lot longer. And they come with these little foam backings that are real nice. And just the wiring itself. When I pull out these old ones, you'll see the wiring on these is a little heavier duty, and it's sealed in there way nicer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and pull these red ones off, because what we're going to do is on each side we're going to have two of the red, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ambers. And I ordered just enough to do that all the way across. So let's get set up, and then I'll show you guys how amazing this looks at night, especially with all the other lights. So eventually we'll upgrade some of these. These ones up here are newer. Now they're the cheaper LEDs, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep those because he put those in right before I got the van, and they've never been hooked up. So we'll hook up those as well and just kind of get an idea of how this van's gonna look at night with all these cool running lights. So let's get set up. I'll do this off camera. We'll get all these swapped out, and then we'll move to the other side and I'll show you guys exactly how I'm installing it, measuring out the distance and all that type of stuff. All right, guys, so I went ahead and finished off the other side. It came out amazing, but I did learn a lot of things that I've got to make some adjustments on. Number one, I'm gonna go ahead and take off our old lights, and these lights are obviously a little bit bigger. So when I utilize the first hole here, what I'm gonna do is make a new hole. Where I messed up on the other one is not measuring and putting the piece right in the center. It still looks great. It's off by maybe 1/4 of an inch to maybe a 1/2 inch on each piece in between, but I realized it as I went along, so I fixed it right after this piece on the other side. You can't really tell, but I want to make sure I do this one right. So if I utilize that hole and I utilize that hole, or let's say I go and just utilize that first hole all the way along, I'm going to measure in between and make sure I center the next piece. That way everything looks really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to speed through removing these old lights, and then I'm going to walk you through how I install the new ones. The other thing I learned is if you look at how long these wires are, we're going to rewire the whole thing using the speaker wire, but I'm going to tie in 3 of them because 3 will actually fit into one piece. And I also picked up, these end up being really nice, is these solder wire connectors. So basically there's a piece of solder in between, and I learned how to use these really well, and I'll show you guys when I go ahead to connect these wires, because you can easily crimp the 3 wires together. But where I made the mistake was I kept all of these wires the same length. I'm going to shorten these so I don't have to figure out how to tie up all this extra wire. I'm going to try to make it all nice and tight all the way down, so it's nice and easy to just zip tie up in there one time. So let's go ahead, zoom through a lot of this, and then I'll kind of walk you through any of the steps that I need to kind of show you guys so you can do this on your own and have it look really good. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the measurements, because we're gonna be installing the in-between ones. Now, if you guys were doing this from scratch, the best way to do it is to measure all the way down where you wanna actually start to where you wanna actually end. And right here is probably a pretty good point, because it starts to curve here. And then down there, you're gonna kind of pick the same area. And then what you wanna do is divide that out by how many you have and place them right in the center. So drill your center holes out. What I'm gonna do now is, because I knew I was gonna have issues, these screws that were on these old, really, really bad LED lights were rusted out. Some of them were really difficult to get out, and I had to drill them, you know, and I wanted to make sure I put everything in place where the holes were kind of lining up. Sometimes I had to drill out, the hole got bigger, so I wanted to use that hole or cover that hole. So I kind of adjusted this to make it look the best I could. Now, that means that not every spot's gonna be equal, but I tried to get them to be close to 12 inches. So this one right here is just over 12 inches. We're gonna go with 12. It's probably closer to 12 and a half than 12 and a quarter. Yeah, it's right around 12 and a half from end to end. So that means 6 and a quarter is gonna be our center point. So what I'm gonna do is mark that with a marker at 6 and a quarter. We'll drill that. That'll be our center hole for this. And then we'll push that through, and then align this to be as level as possible and align with the rest of these. So we want to try to get this as close as possible. Our center hole, if we had to make it bigger and adjust it up and down, that's totally fine. But we want to try to get that as close to where it's lined up center with these, because we don't want to have these kind of wiggling as we go. We want to make them look as straight line as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that, drill that center hole out, get this on here, get that leveled with eyesight, and then mark our next 2 holes, drill those out, and then we can do just like we did all the way down. So really it's just centering each one of these all the way down. And we have 8 of the amber lights, like I said, and then just 2 of the red. And we're gonna go with just the 2 end pieces as red. So let's zoom through this and then start hooking up all of our wires. I'll kind of show you how I do that. And just like that, we are all finished up with installing our lights. I love the way that they're spaced. I love the way everything looks. The alignment's great. And that is just something you're gonna have to take your time with. Now we can move on to what most of you guys probably have questions about, and that is the wiring side of it. How are we gonna tie these wires up? And where are we gonna tap this into? So luckily for me, this was already done. These lights were installed by the previous owner or somebody down the road, and they tied them into the running light here, which is exactly what you want to do. So this light comes on when you do a halfway pull out with your lights. Also a full pull out, they'll stay on as well. This is not a blinker light or anything like that. It's just a running light, so it coordinates with all these other lights here. Very easy to tap into. This side a little more difficult because you do have to take these lights out, but I would do it on either side. So what you want to do is go ahead and pull your screws out here, your Torx screws, remove that, but I'll show you guys from the inside here. They tapped into that black wire. That black wire, I don't know if it's every year, but on this vehicle, specifically 95 G20, that is your power wire. They use one of those tap-in wire things, and I'm gonna go ahead and use our soldering butt connectors and tie that in properly, and we're gonna use some new wiring. They also tapped in the ground terribly. So they used that screw on the back, which can short out and not work. So these lights would sometimes not work, and I could never figure it out, and it's all because of that ground. We've got a grounding block up here. We're gonna clean it up, and we're gonna tie into our grounding block right here and run all new wires down exactly how you would be doing at home if you have nothing run. Now, as far as tying these wires up, down towards the beginning here, so we're gonna start at the end. So down here, you're gonna see we have an area that we can pull these wires up and over, but all the way at the end here, which is where we're going to start, that doesn't exist. So what we're going to do is, just like they did when whoever installed these before, they use these little clips, and we're going to tie those into the back of a couple of these screws and pull our wires through these little hooks here. These are things you can pick up from a hardware store, Lowe's, Home Depot. And the one thing, I said this before, I need to do on this is trim my wires. So we're gonna kind of pull together groups of 2 or 3. So it's an uneven amount of numbers. So we're gonna first pull these 3 together, and we're gonna start our wiring down here. So I'm gonna pull all of this together and trim it so that they all kind of meet right around the same point. And then we can tie these wires up right here. We can then pull the next 3 together and tie those wires up, and then we're basically down to where we can start looping this up over those railings. We might tie one more into the back of this screw, and we'll do 2, 2, and then I think 2, or we'll do, let's see, 3, 3, 3, and then 2. So we can do it that way. We might mix that up. I'm not sure, but I know I'm going to start with 3 down here and probably go to the next 3, and then maybe do 2, 2, and then just tie in that last one. Not 100% sure, but I'll tell you guys as we go. I'll try to show you the best I can, because it's hard to get up underneath here, how I'm pulling these together, how we're using those soldering butt connectors on this. They work great. It's amazing because there's so many different sizes in that kit, and I'll try to leave a link to that little box I got on Amazon. Very cheap. and I've been using it now for a few different projects, and it's been absolutely amazing. So let's get started on this lighting so you guys can see how awesome these look at night. I'll be able to finish this up, and we'll be able to show you guys before the end of the day how this looks, and we'll end the video there because I said we were going to get these lights done up here. But I am going to order in a new switch panel, and we're going to do a separate video where we're going to tie the ones up here into a switch panel so I can flip them on, flip them off, so they're not always going to be running. And I'll have a lot of other things on that switch panel on the inside. So I'm excited about that. But let's get going, get this wired up so you guys can see what this thing looks like. It is going to look so awesome. All right, so now, of course, this one happens to be the wire that I broke and I had to attach a new wire to. So what we're going to do on this one is utilize the length of this one. I didn't use the long enough wire, but that's going to be okay. What you would want to do is just meet all these at a point that they meet, and this actually ends up being pretty perfect. It hangs down low enough to where I can solder this and pull this back up, and if it accidentally falls, it's not going to be dangling on the ground. And then what we'll do is meet this wire right around here. So we're going to go ahead and trim all of our wires. Let's see, I can probably trim this actually a little bit more, as you can see. And we want to meet them right about there. So we're going to go ahead and mark these, cut these. We want to leave enough extra length because we're going to pull back wire and twist these. So I'm pretty close to where I want to be because I'm going to have to trim back all these wires on these. So I'll go ahead and mark where I want to go ahead and cut this wire here. This one's going to be the one that pulls, and this one will probably reach that as well too. So we'll just cut our middle ones here, trim back some of these wires here, go ahead and leave enough metal. And I think we can get away with using this blue one here. And the last thing we want to do is tie in our new wire to all three of these. So we're going to twist all that together, either use this blue one or this yellow butt connector here, slide it over with the wires all twisted. So you've got to slide this over one of your set of wires before you start so you can pull it back like this once everything's twisted together. And I'm going to show you that exactly after I trim all these back. I'll twist them all together, show you guys how it solders together, and then I think we'll just kind of tie it up to one of these screws here, and that should be nice and tidy out of the way. And then we can pull this wire down and move on to our next. The other big thing is I'm going to use the black stripe wire for the brown and this one without a black stripe for the white. Ironically, the brown is your power wire. Learned that the hard way installing the other side because I figured brown was ground, but I did not test it before hooking everything up. Had all the lights hooked up, tried to flip my lights on, nothing worked. Realized quickly I must have the ground and the positive reverse, so I went ahead, trimmed it, retied it back in, and everything worked great. So I'm going to make sure I have all that correctly done. Once we get down to the end, we'll double test it and we'll hook everything up and flip our lights on and check it out. So let's go ahead and get this started. All right, and you guys can see there. Now, I went a little short on this white middle wire here, so it made it a little more difficult to get these to twist together, but that is a real solid connection. It's kind of cool. This little solder on the middle there melts when you hit it with the heat gun. The rest of it shrinks tight, so it's all kind of waterproof. I mean, I would say as close to it as it can be. If you really want to, you could tie some electrical tape around it just to make it a little bit better as far as water security. But that is nice and tight. So even if this fell, that's the amount that it's gonna fall. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this up in here, get to our next group of lights here, and we're going to use this little clip here to tidy up the wire. So I'm just gonna work my way down. There's no point in showing you because I'm gonna be up underneath here tying all these in, and it's identical to what we just did all the way down. I'm gonna group them, like I said, into 3s or 2s. So this one here is grouped into 3s, probably go 3, 3, and then maybe 2 on the end there, but it's all kind of the same exact way. So let's get all these tidied up, wired in, rewire our positive and our ground, and this thing should be great. Guys, of course, I made another mistake, but I get to show you guys exactly what you need to do. So once you get to the next group of wires, you need to make sure you tie in another piece of wire to come down to the next group. So I should have tied that in from here over so that it pulls right down, and I may have needed a bigger butt connector, so the yellow butt connector, since we're using another heavier gauge wire into there. What I'm gonna do right now is just tie this into right here, so I don't have to undo all of this right here. So I'm just gonna tie it back into this wire and bring this whole thing down, then continue to do it the way that I should have, which would have been tying it all into the same wire. So you'd have your 2 white here, or 2 brown, one of the white, so your silver wire into there, and then one of the silver wires and white wire into there. Like I said, you may be able to get away with that blue butt connector. I can't remember if that'll work. If not, you just jump up to the next size butt connector, but that'll allow you to just tie it in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tie it in right here so I don't have to undo all this and mess up the length of the wires here. I'm definitely very happy with how all this came out. You can see everything is nice and tidy. Yes, that is dangling because this is the area that we're gonna start pulling up with our little clip. So I'm gonna pull up this area here and probably this area here. But overall, everything is nice and tidy down this. This might need to be pulled up a little bit, but I also went ahead and tied the end of this wire around this. So I'm gonna pull this real tight, pull this real tight, and then we'll kind of go up into our engine here and rewire everything. Well guys, it just got dark enough to show you how amazing these look with enough light to still kind of show the van. I know there's gonna be some glare as I walk around, but my God, I wish you guys could see this in person. They are so beautiful, so bright, so much brighter than any of the stock lights, which makes me think I really just want to go ahead and change out a lot of these. Down the road, definitely we're going to switch out some of these lights for LED lights. I did mention, let's walk around this side, that we're going to definitely do this top. I was going to hook a switch panel up to that, but I've got some really cool ideas. This van's going to have a lot of videos coming out soon, but I'm going to go ahead, most likely wire those to the running lights, basically the same as these ones. So when I flip the lights on, they will come on. And then I want to get some spotlights up top in the front, some spotlights in the rear, because we're going to take this thing on some camping trips, and I want to be able to flip on some lights if we're going down trails or going down some really dark roads, or just if we're doing things out in the woods and we want to be able to see setting up a tent or anything like that. So I want to go ahead and set those up as kind of a cool little feature with a panel on the inside. So definitely going to set up those lights. May do that off camera, because I'm just gonna run them straight to how these lights work, but we're gonna definitely have a new video coming out very soon with a switch panel, some new lights, interior lights. The TV and those things are not currently working because the old switch panel went bad, and we're gonna modernize that switch panel a little bit and make it really nice and make it usable. So I'm excited. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it gives you guys some ideas. If you have a van out there, to hook up some running lights like this. I think it looks amazing with just the 2 red in the back. Like I said, I don't know the laws in your state. They were very, very gray in the state when I was trying to look up what our state laws were. So I went ahead and just moved them to the very back just so it doesn't draw attention, but I don't think I'll have any issues. Never did in the past, and there were way more red lights coming up the side here from the previous owner. But just look at that, it looks amazing. I'm blown away. I love the way all these LED lights look. Everything's just kind of coming together with this van. This has been such a cool van to work on, do things to, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content. You guys have an awesome day, a blessed week, and I'll catch you on the next video.